Hey everybody, this is Kurtis from the Epic Marvel Podcast, and I just picked up Silver Surfer Epic Collection number 9. This one's called Resurrection, and I wanted to talk to you about it today, but I also thought this would be a good opportunity to talk about all the Silver Surfer Epic Collections. So this is going to be sort of an overview of the entire Silver Surfer Epic line. Silver Surfer was a character that debuted in the pages of Fantastic Four in 1966. This first volume, called When Calls Galactus, features all of his early appearances in the pages of Fantastic Four, with a couple of appearances in Tales to Astonish. This is an interesting book in that it doesn't actually contain any actual Silver Surfer issues, like stuff from his own title. It's all stuff before that. So a lot of people don't really like this volume, because it's a lot of double dips. If you're collecting the Fantastic Four Epic Collections, you don't really need this volume. All of those issues are in there. But let's see, this one includes the Coming of Galactus story, where Silver Surfer first appears in Fantastic Four number 48 through 50. And it also has 55 through 61, issue 72, and issue 74 through 77. And a lot of that is told in excerpts, because not all of the issue is about Silver Surfer. So this collection, what it does is takes all of the Surfer-specific parts of the story and puts them all together in sort of one big long Silver Surfer narrative. If you are a Surfer fan, this is a good book to have. All of his early character development before he gets his own series is told in this book. We find out who he is, we find out why he does what he does, we find out, how he has the change of heart, because he's a herald of Galactus to start, he's going to destroy the Earth, and what makes him change his mind. All the stories here are written by Stan Lee, and the art is almost exclusively Jack Kirby. Of course, he was the Fantastic Four artist at the time, so yeah, he gets the share of the artwork here, with a couple of stories from Tales to Astonish by Maurice Severin when Silver Surfer meets up with the Hulk. The second Epic Collection will collect all of Stan Lee and John Buscema's Silver Surfer solo series, but that Epic Collection hasn't been released yet. Instead, they went right over to Volume 3, which is called Freedom. And this collects a bunch of stories from 1980 to 1989. Most notably, the Silver Surfer one-shot from 1982, which is considered to be Silver Surfer Volume 2. And then it jumps over to Silver Surfer Volume 3, the solo series that started in 1987. This collects the first 14 issues. This is the classic story when Silver Surfer breaks the barrier that is holding him to Earth, so he can now go back out into outer space again. The series is written by Steve Englehart, with lots of art from Marshall Rogers, and this starts to explore a lot of the concepts that become very important in the whole Infinity Cosmic Saga. We learn about the Infinity Stones sort of for the first time, and all of the Elders of the Universe who are holding each of the stones, or gems as they're called here, Infinity Gems. This also includes Supervillain Classics number 1, which gives us the origin of Galactus, and also Epic Illustrated number 1, a short story with some beautiful artwork, and Marvel Fanfare number 51, an unused story that was drawn by John Buscema. Silver Surfer spends some time with Nova, as you can see in the cover here, and also Mantis shows up, one of Steve Englehart's characters. One of the highlights of the book, of course, is going to be a lot of the setup for the upcoming second Kree-Skrull War that will be shown in volumes 4 and 5 whenever Marvel decides to publish those. The epics then jump over to volume 6, Thanos Quest. Now, for all of you who are really interested in the character of Thanos, because of the Avengers movies, of course, this is the volume to get. Fantastic stuff from Jim Starlin. The Jim Starlin run doesn't start in this book. It starts in the previous volume, Volume 5, but here's the story where we get to find out how Thanos comes back from the dead. Yes, he died previously. And what his plans are for the future. He's going to gather the Infinity Gems for himself. In fact, this is the volume where he turns the gems into Infinity Gems. It has the two-part Thanos Quest story, and it also has Silver Surfer number 39 to 50. This is all lead up to the Infinity Gauntlet miniseries. So you're going to want to check that out if you're a big fan of the Infinity Gauntlet miniseries. There's some wonderful artwork from Ron Lim. He becomes the regular artist on this book, and so if you are a fan of Ron Lim, then what he's known for is Silver Surfer, so you got to pick this up. In this one, we also see the return of Adam Warlock, and that's important as well, one of Jim Starlin's favorite characters. He comes in and is going to play a big role in Infinity Gauntlet as well. And once you read that book, you can head right over to Volume 7, which is called The Infinity Gauntlet, and that might be a little confusing because the Infinity Gauntlet miniseries is actually not collected in this book. This book collects Silver Surfer number 51 to 66, as well as annual number 4 and some stories from Marvel Comics Presents. Now, this is called Infinity Gauntlet because so many of these issues are actually tie-ins to the story. So what you'll want to do is actually get out your Infinity Gauntlet trade and read these kind of alternating issues. Silver Surfer at this time was published bi-monthly, so between each issue of Infinity Gauntlet, there were 2 issues of Silver Surfer kind of exploring in a little bit more detail the concepts of Infinity Gauntlet and his involvement in it. Ron Lim is still on artwork, but because this was twice a month, he had to kind of share duties with some other artists, and Ron Mars steps in to take over the writing duties. He was a protege of Jim Starlin's, and he takes over the book at this point. Now, for some reason, Marvel decided not to publish Volume 8, and instead they've given us Silver Surfer Resurrection, which I showed you at the beginning of this episode. This is the one that just came out recently. Volume 8 contains the very big story called The Herald Ordeal, where Ron Mars decides to expand Silver Surfer's cosmic world. He introduces a bunch of new characters, he kind of revamps Nebula, and that story sets up a lot of the stuff that happens in this volume. So it's kind of interesting that we don't get Volume 8, but I mean, this is the Epic Collection. They publish them out of order, so there you go. Ron Lim is still on artwork here, which is always fantastic. And Ron Mars brings together a whole host of characters like Tyrant and Morg and Jack of Hearts. There's just a whole bunch of people that show up to become part of Silver Surfer's supporting cast in this era. Of course, we see lots of Galactus, and we get special appearances from people like Beta Ray Bill and the X-Men. And then there's also this 4-issue limited series in here called Silver Surfer Warlock Resurrection, written and drawn by Jim Starlin. And this is always a treat to get Jim back writing Silver Surfer and bringing back his concepts. However, this miniseries deals with some stuff that's set up in a graphic novel that he did, which I'm assuming is going to be printed in Volume 8. So this volume is sort of a spoiler alert for stuff that happens in Volume 8, if you haven't read that stuff already. This book also covers the period of Infinity Crusade, which was Jim Starlin's 3rd Infinity miniseries. And there are a couple of tie-in issues here, so you might want to pull out your 2 Infinity Crusade to read along and kind of do the same thing. Read a little bit of Infinity Crusade and then hop over back to Silver Surfer and see how his issues tie in there. And as a special bonus, we also get Secret Defenders number 8 and 9, written by Ron Mars with art by Tom Grindberg. Just a quick note that this volume had a printing error depending on where you got your copy. Seems like a lot of people have complained that there are, several pages that are missing the black line. The example people like to point out is the splash page in issue number 85 with Silver Surfer, because half of it looks great on one side and half of it is missing the black ink. And it's very, very noticeable on that splash page especially. Thankfully, my copy is okay, but if you haven't taken a look inside yours, you'll probably want to. The errors are all throughout issues numbers 84 and 85. The last Silver Surfer epic that has been released so far is Volume 13, called Inner Demons. This is a new direction for Silver Surfer. Stuff that happened to him in the previous volume left him cold and emotionless with no memories. And so he is kind of a clean slate and he goes back to Earth. This is different from the Ron Mars and Jim Starlin era, which takes him all over the universe. This one brings him back. It's a little bit more of a grounded story, but it doesn't last long because he meets up with Alicia and they start to have a little bit of a romance, and then he takes her out into outer space and they start kind of going through space and time, having adventures, just the two of them. Written by J.M. DeMatteis, who I always am a fan of. This is an interesting volume, very different from the other ones, but still quite enjoyable. This is not the last volume of the Epic Collections. There is going to be a volume 14 eventually, because that's where Silver Surfer's series ends, with issue 148, I believe. And so there's one more volume to go after this one. At least. We don't know where the Epic Collections are going to stop, but that would be a logical place for them to stop, because he doesn't get another series until the early 2000s. Well, that's kind of my overview for the Silver Surfer Epic line. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any more questions, if there's anything you need me to further clarify, if I made any mistakes, feel free to let me know in the comments. And I would appreciate a like, a positive like, and I would love it if you became a subscriber as well, so that you would be first in line to know when I post new videos. Search for Epic Marvel Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Search for Epic Collections on Facebook and join my Epic Collection Facebook group. And don't forget to listen to my podcast at epicmarvelpodcast.com. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next time.